So I thought I'd make this video to show a problem with this Dynon SkyView unit because it's quite interesting and it was quite an easy fix. But what I would say is if you are attempting this repair, then you really do need to be careful. Obviously these are very valuable, about £4,500 in the UK, about $4,500 in the US, and you can really damage these so that it would need quite an expensive repair if you don't know what you're doing. Unfortunately, I've already fixed this one, but I'll try and include in the video some other videos and stills of the bits and pieces that you need to know about to fix the fault. So what were the symptoms with this? So the symptoms with this, with it installed in the aircraft, is that it had an intermittent problem where the backlight would pulse and go off, and the illumination on the buttons on the keypad here would flicker and go out. And obviously when the backlight was out, it was unusable. You couldn't see the screen. So it's been removed from the aircraft. I have no real familiarity with the Dynon SkyView units. I've not used them in an aircraft. I'm a pilot and I fly using analog gauges, but I'm an electronic engineer. So they asked me to take a look at this because the cost of sending it back to the States and having it fixed was going to be quite high. So the first thing I did was to obtain the installation guide, and I downloaded some pages from the Dynon website. So I've got the one which shows where the connectors are and the one which shows which pins which pins connect to which parts in the aircraft. Now, reading through the manual, and it's quite an extensive manual, it would appear that you really just need the power supplies to actually power up the unit, and the supply range is 10 to 30 volts. So there's switch mode controllers within the unit, so obviously the higher the voltage, the lower the current drawn from the power supply. But I guess this means it can run from 12 volt and 24 volt systems. So you'll see there are two power input pins and there are two power ground pins. And given this goes into a 37-way D-type, this is obviously to spread the load so that the current doesn't all pass through one pin. And there's a certain level of redundancy in it. So what I did is I had the only 37-way female connector I had lying around was an IDC style. So I just made up a small harness. Those are the two pins for the negative, those are the two pins for the positive. Okay, and then I've got a bench power supply which I can set up to about 30 volts. So all I'm going to do, positive on that one, negative on that one. Now if we flip the unit around, we can plug the power in. Now one thing to note that is of interest, if you're familiar with PCs and network cards, then you have the two LEDs often built into the RJ45 connector, and those two LEDs have specific functions for the network connections and the data communication. Now on the Dynon unit, they've repurposed these LEDs quite sensibly to show power on and activity. So they are not indicative of what the network is doing. So basically when you power it up, you'll see these LEDs operate. In fact, if we put it on now, I've got 12 volts with a 2 amp current limit, so we'll turn it on. See, the fans have a small cycle to start with, and then you'll see the two LEDs on. So one is indicating power and the other one is indicating activity, and the fans have started up again. Right, so what I'll do is I'll switch it off, I'll turn it round so you can see what the boot sequence is. Now bear in mind we have no other modules connected at the moment. We literally just have the power supply going in. Okay, so ordinarily this will be looking for the ADA-HARS unit and the EMS unit, and it'll be looking to pull data from them. Those are not present. I've not changed the configuration of this, so it's still looking for those. So let's turn it on and you'll see what happens. So you can see the backlight comes on and then you get the splash screen. It gradually increases in intensity. So that's an indication that obviously the backlight power supply is working. Now you'll see it goes around this boot sequence several times. Now I've spoken to Dynon and they say this is quite normal for running a unit in this state on the bench. Now, I haven't run it in the aircraft, but I imagine you get the splash screen, and then after it's booted, it goes straight into the EFIS and EMS displays. Whereas on the bench, I find you get one of two things happens. Either reboots 3 times and then it goes in and you get the normal screen, minus the instruments obviously, or it gets into an RTIO screen and it hangs there. But cycling the power, that brings it back. Now, just for reference, if you've got 12 volts going in, I've got about 2 amps being drawn. Now, obviously, if you increase the voltage to over 20 volts, that will then halve down to about 1 amp. Right, so there's a console screen where it goes through and it shows all the various bits and pieces are okay. And yeah, so more often than not, it goes to this screen here. So if you get something similar to this, it's probably an indication that it's all working. So you can see the backlight is nice and bright. You've got all the colors there. You've got the illuminated. In fact, if I switch the light off, you can see the illumination on the buttons. And you may wonder what this little tiny circle is between the middle buttons here. It looks like it's an LED of some kind, but actually that's the ambient light sensor. So if you cover it, you can see it'll start to dim down. Now, it is a damped process. It's obviously got some averaging in the algorithm, and you can see it dims down quite nicely. Conversely, if you shine a torch in there, the brightness of the backlight will increase even more. Okay, and this at the moment is just set to the default settings. So obviously the caution's flashing. If I press the button, you can see it's complaining about all the bits and pieces that aren't connected. So there's obviously a backup battery that was connected. That's no longer there. The transponder was connected. That's obviously gone, and the other bits and pieces that we've talked about. Now, the other functions do still bring things up. So it shows the keypad is working. If you hold down these 2 buttons on the right, you can go into the setup menu, and then you have access to all the various functions. And then again, if you hold this first button down, it says hold to power down. I won't power it down just yet, but if you hold it down, it does actually power down. So without any of the other instruments connected, this is what you're going to see on the display. So as far as I can tell, this is now fully working. Now, I'll tell you what the fault was. The keypad has a small PCB with an FPC ribbon cable, which goes onto the main motherboard. And I'll try and include some other photos of this in with the video. And that connector was not making proper connection with the connector on the interface board for the main single board computer. Now, you can reseat that, but you have to be extremely careful. If you're not used to releasing FPC connectors and fiddling about with FPC ribbon cables, then you may not want to do this job, because you could cause a lot of damage and it's going to cost you a lot of money to have it fixed. But essentially, the ribbon cable needed to be withdrawn and reinserted into the connector, so it was fully seated all the way in. It was a bit of a fiddle because of where the position for one of the fan cables lay on the board, but I managed to achieve that, clip it all back in, and now it's working. So I suspect that if the unit is running and it loses communication with that keypad, maybe it loses the light sensor information, and that's what then intermittently changes the backlight intensity and the intensity of the lighting on the buttons. So that's all I can think of that was causing the problem, because when I had the fault, unfortunately it's fixed now so I can't show you the fault, but when I had the fault, if you got a torch and you shined it on the screen, you could just about make out the writing. So the LCD was running, the unit had booted up, but there was just no backlight. And so I suspect it was the LDR or whatever they're using as the light sensor in here was not being seen by the unit. Why it didn't go to a default setting if it loses it, I don't know. But anyway, that's the logic of it that I suspect was at play. So here you can go. It's useful if you're going to try and fix one of these. I mean, obviously it is a very expensive unit. The consequences of messing this up not only are going to be expensive, but if you don't fix it properly, then obviously you're going to install this back in an aircraft and someone's relying on this to fly the aircraft. I mean, they should have backup gauges, but even so, it's not a great thing if you get it wrong. So you need to be super careful if you're messing about with these. Is there anything else to say? Well, let's just power it down. Just hold the button, go into standby. Just out of interest, the standby current with a 12 volt supply is about 38 milliamps. Now, I don't know how this works in the aircraft. I guess it's switched on the master switch, so you switch the master switch off and then it fully powers down. Otherwise, this would drain your battery. So that's worthy of note. Right, so I'm just going to disconnect the power connector. Now, to get into the unit, I won't take it apart again. You've got a series of screws. In fact, you don't need to touch these here unless you're going to get actually into the keypad, which I didn't need to do for this repair. This section here breaks at this point here and down the sides. So you've got 2 screws on the side, 2 screws on the other side there. I think there's a tamper label over one. You just have to carefully peel that off. No screws on the top or on the bottom. Now, I think these and these also had to come out, and then this back panel comes away. This is the heatsink for the single board computer and the interface, and you need to be very careful once this is all loose, because you've got various cables inside, and one of them is the ribbon, which is at the bottom. Like I say, I'll try and include some photos in with the video so as you can see the part that we're talking about, because I don't really want to take it apart now. It's all been working and I've had it running for days, so it seems reliable. So there we have it. If you've got any comments or questions, put them in the comments. I'll try and put some information in the description, and hopefully that will help you if you have similar problems. Other than this one particular fault, I don't know much else about these. I know there's another one of these which someone's asked me to take a look at, which has a problem with the touchscreen. Again, that could be related to that same ribbon cable, although I suspect that the touchscreen is on a separate connection into the system. So if I manage to get anywhere with that one, I'll do another video, because that may prove useful to people as well. Okay, I hope that helps.